Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn.
Morning, Mikey.
How you doing today?
Man, I'm ready to rock.
I know.
Doing
Can't
good,
believe
man.
it's been a week already.
No, I love it.
You know, we peppered in a couple of bonus coffees in there. They're up in the library for people to listen to, which is good. Some backstory stuff. And yeah, it's just good to be here.
So funny as we try to figure this out. They're called bonus drops.
Bonus drops. Is that pod language right there?
That is pod language. It's crazy.
I'm so trying to figure this thing out. I don't know.
Yeah, so just just to probably do a quick recap. You know, we're dropping these weekly, focused on Wednesdays. Trying to stick to 18 minutes. You know.
Trying to. We did pretty good so far.
Yeah.
I think week one, I think we came in at 18:20.
So start kicking me when we hit the 50-minute mark, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I should be able to gauge by my coffee, right? Because it's all scientific. I should know when my coffee's about empty, I should be done talking. That should be my
awesome.
cue. If it were only that easy for my wife. You're done with your coffee now, honey. You can quit talking.
Boy, that's great.
Yeah. So this morning, we came to discuss. We're doing, I guess we're going to get together here and talk a little bit about step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So that was my cuteness of the morning. We came to discuss.
Right, step 2. Boy, that's right after step 1. And step 1's a big one, right?
Yeah, step 1 was a big one. I really think that, there was a lot that we could have probably expounded on last week, but
Well, plenty of opportunity.
yeah, but basically last week it told us that we can't. And this week we're going to find out that he can.
All right, step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Wait, what? There's something more powerful than me, Glenn?
You know, that's kind of how I underline it also.
What?
It's kind of
You haven't seen my Facebook page, man. I'm near perfect.
nice. Yeah, so as we've outlined, we break out these little coffee chats into 3 sections. One is focused on our experience, kind of what we went through and on our path, and then break into strength or tools, what we did at the gym, right, to help us on this step. And then the third section is hope, right? So if we do, if we went through A and we did B, what can we expect, right? And frankly, our stories, we've gained hope from others,
Sure.
from watching others, and from our own walk.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you're spot on, because what I learned around the tables and in the coffee shops is that my life is going to turn out obviously different than your life, but I can find real contentment and joy in my life now. But we'll talk about the hope from doing the exercises. So.
excellent. So let's talk about experience. What was your experience with, when you first read step 2, and as you started working through it, what kind of bullet points did you go through?
Yeah, as I was preparing for this, I thought, for me anyway, Glenn, I always bought into the theory of a greater power early in my life. I had the star experience when I was a lad. I laid out on the front lawn and I looked up at the vastness of the stars, and I just felt very tiny and in the grander scope of things. And so again, early on, I bought into this theory that there was a power greater than myself that was doing something out there, right? I just quickly soured as life handed me devastation instead of doves. I began to push away from that root feeling that I had with my higher power because, well, frankly, shit happened. And I quit acting like I believed that for most of my adult life.
When you mentioned, childhood, and I think, as I look at step 2, power greater than ourselves, my whole life I was, very self-focused. I was taught, I was taught, or I figured out to be self-reliant. And that, that's what you do. You make your own bed, right? You do your own chores without being told, and that was ingrained in me, and it was ingrained in me to be the best and to do whatever it took to be the best. And anything else, anything greater than me meant I was weaker.
Sure.
And that's how I looked at it. It was crazy, and it was a weakness. And we talked before about asking for help, and how I thought that was a weakness, and instead, in reality, it's a strength.
Right. Yeah, it's and then for the sanity part, as for sanity, I'm not sure that I had an abundance before alcohol abuse. I really don't think I had much sanity going on in my life. A little for certain, but the last decade or so before recovery, I had no sanity in my life. Things didn't make sense, and they just kept turning out the wrong way. And we've all heard it a million times, but the definition of insanity, right, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's attributed to many people. I think Albert Einstein is one of the people. But that was my life there for a long period of time, was just continuing to do the same thing. And I thought, okay, well, maybe things will get better. Even though I was doing the exact same thing, I expected a different outcome. And that's insanity.
Yeah, we have a lot of conversations and a lot of coffees with different people, and there's always talk about what's sanity, what's insanity, right? Trying to get that definition, and as I look back, certainly my life was unmanageable, and some would say insane. In fact, I probably had some doctors probably at some point question that level of sanity. But the way I look at it today, and what's a sane life, right? And it's probably, just a healthy, balanced, productive, purposeful, boy, there are a lot of words.
Yeah, right.
Way of living, right?
Right.
But yeah, as I look back, my life was unmanageable, and it was neither or none of all those words I just mentioned.
Right. It's funny. I got to tell on myself a little bit here, but.
Oh, I love it when you do that.
Yeah, I know, right? So, and this, a badge of honor during my drinking days, but, I got kicked out of Vegas. The men of the law told me I was acting insane, and they put me in the back.
Out of all of Vegas?
How do you get kicked out of Vegas, And, but I was that guy, and they popped me in a car and drove me to the airport and asked me to get on the next plane and kind of get out of Dodge, if you will. So
how did that make you feel?
Oh,
like a badge of honor, or were you ashamed?
No, at that point, I'm like a badge of honor, And when I look back at it now, I'm thinking, you idiot, just do it. And so the next time I went out there, which was like 2 weeks later, I just did the exact same thing, except I didn't get caught that time. But, I didn't like who my higher power had become to me in my life, which was really had become a shit show. But ironically, Glenn, it was who I turned to at the moment of my deepest need. When I really was, when I hit my darkest moment, it was that higher power that I turned to, that one from my front lawn.
Yeah, and that's just going back to how I looked at step 2. A power greater than myself. I really, and this sounds cliche, or this sounds ridiculous, but I really believe that I was God.
Sure.
And not necessarily in the big universe sort of way, but,
God of your own life.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody knew better than me. Nobody knew how to do things better than me. My input was always the best. And I think as I look back, I didn't want anybody to challenge me, right? And I came across that way. So nobody would ever say, no, Glenn, you should have gone left instead of right. I just went right and found my way around some way, and I'd fake my way through.
Right. But didn't you find, at least I found that for most segments of my life, my manageability was spot on. The brochure looked pretty good. I had the job, had the car, had the advancements, had all the toys. So I was managing well. The one area I couldn't manage was my abuse. That was the one area I couldn't manage on my own. And I guess for me, all I knew is that no human power, or at least not my power. Let's put it that way. I didn't know about no human power, but I knew that my human power couldn't relieve me of my alcoholism because I had tried so many times.
You know, it's funny when you say that. I remember times in my life when I was at my highest, right? When you said the Christmas card, right, or the Facebook page was perfect, right? But even during those times, and even before, booze was even beginning to be a disaster, right? Even at my highest times, I was still off on the inside. And some people call that the ism part of it. The grime that's always there, that fear that not good enough.
Sure.
That was always stewing. And hey, through career and through possessions and whatever, I covered a lot of that up.
So how do we fix it, I guess, right? If we're going to segue into strength, how do we fix it? And for me, what I love about step 2, it's kind of it's a soft action step, right? It's not asking us to do anything more than come to believe. That's all it's asking us to do.
It sounds so easy, doesn't it?
I know, it does.
It's like one of these soft skills.
It's not like come to believe and then, by the way, go put an addition on your house or go rebuild your motor.
Right, no,
it's just come to believe. That's it. Just a little faith, and that could be our way out of hell, And so it's not, for me, I was so tired, so beaten that I thought, excuse my language, I thought, what the fuck, let this higher power give it a try. And I don't mean to disrespect anybody with the language, but that's exactly where I was on that dark morning, Glenn. I was done. I was toast.
Yeah, so, for me, the step 2 was not about God. It wasn't. Because it doesn't say anything about God.
Right.
It says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves. So my immediate higher power, and I shared it in a prior week, was, when I sat on my counselor's floor on Friday afternoon and couldn't move after an 8-day detox, 6 hospitals across the country from Palm Springs, and I surrendered. At that moment, I actually guess I did steps 1 and 2 in the same moment. Because I believed at that point in time that a power greater than me, my counselor, dude's name's Matt, really cool guy, a power greater than myself could help me figure something out, right? Get through today. And at the point, it wasn't sanity. It was, hey, I just need to get through today without drinking, right? So he was my higher power, still is to some degree, still connected to him. Then it became the guys in my group, my 4-month program. They became my higher power because they didn't drink yesterday. And I followed them, right? And I really believed if I had the faith that if I did what they did, then I would get through today without drinking. For me, it had nothing to do with God. For me, it had to do with just getting outside of my head, surrendering to somebody else and saying, hey,
Yeah, that's
somebody else got,
Boy, that's really inspirational because the God thing, the God thing could scare away a lot of people from recovery.
Scared me away.
Sure, right. And I love the way you said that, and the way that you acted was, look, I'll take the first thing in front of me and boom, you're my higher power. And there's such a similarity in my story because I uttered the word help and I said, okay, people around me, my wife, and the doctors and the emergency room nurse. And I said to all of them, your power is greater than my power. Take me to the promised land. And they ultimately did, So.
Yeah, they actually say, in fact, I just heard this recently, that you can't fix a problem with the same brain that created it. So for me, that's getting out. That's for getting outside of me. There's no way. And for me, it wasn't some miraculous, Shazam.
Yeah,
I didn't have any other choice.
Right, that's so funny. I was just going to say that. Yeah, I was just going to say I was out of choices.
I burned through all my options.
Right,
I had enough proof that I failed.
And it wasn't out of choices or options, but and for me, it wasn't out of strength either. Like you said, it wasn't a strategic plan, but it was exhaustion and the inability to survive another breath. But I made that, came to believe decision, turned out to be the most significant action of my life.
So there's strength and weakness?
There's strength and weakness, absolutely.
So for step 2 for you, you're the power greater than ourselves. That was your higher power, which is God.
It ultimately turned out to be that way. It started out to be my wife, the doctors, and the people at the that I met. Yeah, very much so. And but now I sit on step 2 so often because I have to come back and remember that I don't know who God is, but I know I'm not God. Right? I don't know God through and through, but I know one thing: I'm not God.
Yeah, so, as we summarize, as you said, step 1 is I can't,
right?
Step 2 is
He can,
or they can, right?
Right.
People or, a group. All right, so we're digging on step 2, so what has happened, right? Are we all sane, fabulous, fantastic men today, or what?
Yeah, I mean, far from it. Unfortunately, we're still... I'm still on this journey here, but I'll tell you one thing, Glenn. Once I came to believe, once I took this step, right, and like you, or maybe not like you, we'll find out. But I did 1, 2, 3, pretty, in pretty rapid fashion because it was just a seamless knee jerk for me, out of desperation. But things began to change for me instantly in a positive way. Things just started. Impossibilities became possibilities right before my eyes. I could see the hand of a greater power than myself working in my recovery of my life. Almost instantly. Glenn, was it instant for you, or were you on the slow train?
Well, I'm getting really jealous because you must be one of those sometimes quickly guys. No, not for me. I am on the slow train. As we'll really find out here as we talk about step 3, but. No, this whole thing has been a process. It progressively got worse. My alcoholism, my drinking, the disaster got worse day by day by day. And I can also say that about my recovery. It has been just as slow and just as progressive. It's a half a step every day
in a positive way, but
but
you're not. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
It has not been a light switch as it has been for some. But the coolest thing is, we talk about the words of the program. The coolest thing is it outlines that in the promises. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. So I can't tell you how many times I looked at those words. I'm like, hey, they're telling me that the path I'm on is okay. It's okay to be on the slow train.
Right.
And I just learned to tolerate that. And again, it goes back to that word faith that we're going to throw out,
Sure.
5,000 times.
Right. Well, it's a spiritual-based program, and it needs to be embraced as such, I guess. For me, there's so much more to my recovery story, Glenn, but this step is the crux. It's really the linchpin, and we all know what a linchpin is. I mean, that's holding the wheel on it. For me, it's the linchpin.
Yeah, and I like what you said, about still being on the journey, right? It's not a destination. It's a journey. It's a path. It's a path of recovery. And that's how it is for me, and a lot of folks that we know. I mean, that's how it is for them. And from a hope perspective, when I initially read this step and understood this step and what do I have to look forward to, I'm like, hey, I can get back to sanity. Well, I immediately thought about the life that I had before.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, that's not sanity,
no.
Right? So then that's where I had to realize that, hey, I need to change. I need to change who I am. I need to change what I'm doing, how I'm thinking, to find that, healthy, balanced, purposeful, sane way of living, which I'm still not sure if it's sane, but it's better than what it was.
I know, right? And, it's not the last step in the process either. I was, with this step, I found relief, but I was still left with 2 simple tasks right in front of me. And that was 1, don't take the next pill or sip. And then number 2, do take the next step in recovery. Pretty easy breezy. I mean, just follow the path.
Yeah, and the kind of my last thought on step 2 is, it says came to believe, right? That's for me, I use the word faith, right? Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I've got this big dial, right? It's got the word faith on one side of the dial, and then it's got facts on the other side of the dial. And 6.5 or so years ago, when I sat in that counselor's room, it was 100% focused on faith. Right. I had faith that he's going to help me get through today. Mm-hmm. And then as I've gone on this path to recovery, this sober path, that dial has changed more, and it's dialing more towards facts. Right. Because I've seen proven. Facts. We've seen facts. I see facts in you. I see facts in my own life. So that's a continuous process as that dial continues to move. Yes, I still have faith, but I also have a lot more facts, which feeds more faith.
I love it. It's like a
cycle.
It's like a cycle. Yeah. I love it.
A good cycle, a positive cycle.
My goodness. Well, Glenn, I got to run. Who's buying today?
Oh, I'll buy.
Again.
Yep.
All right. Thanks much, man. See you next week.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Mikey.
Hi, man.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.